with kind of our next steps and then open it up for discussion. So with that, I'm Greta DeMayo. I'm the Executive Director of the PATH Foundation. And on my team here tonight, I have Eric Ganther. Hey, Eric. And Pete Pellegrini. Where's Pete? He's probably out at the table. So make sure you say hi to Pete. And Cooper, unfortunately, was under the weather tonight. He's our intern. But we're just a small organization and only have a handful of staff. So we surround ourselves with other consultants that are really the experts in putting all the graphics together, really working by our side and producing what will become your final deliverable. And so tonight our team is Kaizen Collaborative, and I have Nico Shin over here, and then Susie is probably also out at the sign-in table. So that's the team that we're working with to be able to do your master plan. So the PATH Foundation, we started, oh gosh, 32 years ago, really focused on Metro Atlanta and making Metro Atlanta the most trail-connected city in the country. And so how do you do that? Well, we're still learning. And really, it's our partnerships throughout Metro Atlanta and our partnerships throughout the state of Georgia to assist communities in visioning what are the trail opportunities that they have. How do you build your trail system? How do you really get people to have that quality of life that we're looking for the trail system to bring? So to date, we have built over 315 miles of trails. And so that expertise and that experience really is what we bring to this master planning level of where would you even start? You'll notice tonight that one of your questions as we're going through the opportunities that we have found for trail connections, we want you to tell us, where do you want us to start? So keep that in mind. So why do we do this? Why are we a nonprofit? Why are we partnering with the city of Dunwoody? Well, trails really do bring people together, and they just provide tremendous benefits. The way that we look at trails is we're wanting to create inviting experiences where you want to be together as a community. We're in doing that, we're going to look for green space. We can't always find green space, but when we can, it really helps to preserve this green space for your enjoyment, your public use. This picture actually is part of Path 400 in the Brookhaven area, the Buckhead area. And so it's just great to be able to have the trail bring the community to green space that otherwise they were not able to really enjoy. Also, greenway trails, when we do find opportunities for greenway trails, they become like linear parks, really allowing you to enjoy that outdoor opportunities, and not just for today, but for generations of those who will be after us here in Dunwoody. And they also become kind of what I call the canvas of just you taking your own trail and making it yours, being able to do public art, being able to do community gardens. There's things that you as a community, once the trails are in place, might say, oh, wow, we could put bird boxes out. There's all kinds of opportunities that trails present to make it your own trail. And so just to kind of wrap up the why, trail users, really, we're looking at getting you out, having fresh air, exercise, and again, having the interaction with your neighbor, where we've come from really getting to know our neighbors to really, if we can see your neighbors on a daily basis on a trail, it really strengthens your community. So with that, the trail is the place you want to be and where you want to live, work, and shop. I know the median age of Dunwoody is, who knows the median age of Dunwoody? I heard it's 37. And I heard that your community has 25% below the age of 18. So some of this is also, you know, where is that younger generation wanting to live, work, and shop? You know, how are they wanting their future locations to look like? And those are some of the things that trails really provide, with connecting people to destinations they want to get to. So when you look at hearing about Atlanta and hearing about the Atlanta Beltline, the economic side of what trails brings is a pretty amazing just example of how Atlanta started building the Beltline. This is what it looked like in 2004. And this was our existing trail that went to Stone Mountain. This was the Freedom Park portion of the Stone Mountain Trail. So that was where the Beltline corridor was. And over time, the areas that really were kind of run down became revitalized. In addition to revitalizing the area, it also brought in tree canopy, which was needed, and just really became a linear kind of park condition with destinations where people would want to live, work, and play. So that's a little bit of what the benefits are, and just providing, again, the opportunity for just public health, improving public health, getting out and exercising, biking, and walking. So one of the things that we look at when we're building trails is we're building it for everyone, everyone's enjoyment, all ages, all races, all income levels, and all abilities. You know, we really want everyone to be able to come and enjoy the trails that are going to be built here in Dunwoody. And to also provide, I know a lot of people are looking at it from a commuter perspective, especially with e-bikes now. How do we get you to the places you want to go? And how can you get there in an ease of going from your home to those destinations? So as we started the plan here, our planning approach set a master planning goal. We worked with our working group to kind of outline this goal. A few of the points in the goal of the master plan is really connectivity, to get residents to key destinations. And it's also to do it in a safe and inviting way. And so as we continue forward, that's the goal that we're always reflecting back. How do we get residents to key destinations, and how do we do it in a safe and inviting way? And so as we kicked off in September, it seems like yesterday, we've had a community open house. Today, we're here at our second community engagement. We even came, though, to your lighting of Dunwoody, and I'll go through that in a minute. So in our process, if I was to go back, we're looking at kind of getting the draft document completed in the next few months, so that it can be an adopted document for your city to be able to take forward, to be able to identify funding, and to be able to really look at influencing any future development that might be happening to help build the trail. And so keep in mind, that's kind of where we're heading. And so part of our master planning process is, who are we planning the trail for? That's a big question. You know, I said all ages, abilities, races, you know, income levels, but who is that? How many, what's the percentage of your population that we're looking at? And so this is a study from Portland. Portland's a very bikeable community. This study was done really looking at biking in Portland. So this is our jump off point. This study showed that 1% of the population would come Ashford, Dunwoody at 5 o'clock, right in the travel lane of the car, and be fine. But that's not us. Well, it might be my colleague Eric. He's an avid biker. He might do that. But anyway, that's not who we're planning for. This study showed if we can get that biker to be buffered from the road, get them away from the road, we would have another 60% of the population that would use that in this case, Portland's bike facility. So we take that and we say, okay, if we can create trails that are really buffered from roads, that don't only accommodate bicyclists, but also accommodate pedestrians, that is our goal, to reach 60% of your population here in Dunwoody, which I think is kind of low. I think we can reach more than that. It's going to be excited and start to use what is built for your trail system. So that key is separation, really getting safely where I see a little one in the back. I'm so glad, you know, it's so hard to have a public meeting on a school night, but we want you to be comfortable with your little guy when he starts biking, being on Dunwoody's trail system. How do we do that? How do we get the little ones to every age comfortable in being on the trail system? So, but I have to be realistic. Even in this study, even if you get your trails away from roads, there's a percentage of your population. It doesn't matter. And maybe some of you guys might be in this category. You're still not going to use it. You're the no way, no how. I'm going to always jump in my car to get to the places I want to go. So we're realistic about that, but the goal that we have in this master plan is really looking at, you know, the larger percentage of your population, getting them out of their car, getting you locally where you can be comfortable walking and biking to the destinations that you want to go here in your community. So the question that we asked in the open house and at the lighting of Dunwoody was, okay, where are those destinations? If you could walk or bike anywhere, where would that be? Because that's the starting point of our planning process. If we don't connect you to the places where you want to go, we really haven't done our job. Because we want, again, 60%, we want to target high use, majority of your population, and everybody wanting to be there. So here were some of the key destinations. You know, we kept hearing over and over again the ones that are on the top here. Your nature center, the Dunwoody Nature Center, your core kind of what the village area, Dunwoody Village, Perimeter Center, everything around Perimeter, the Georgia State University, kind of the campuses, kind of that core school area within Dunwoody. And everybody loves Brook Run Park. I think it's just amazing. You have such a beautiful park. How do you get people where you don't have to get in your car and drive to Brook Run Park to enjoy it? So we started looking at these destinations, and then we went from there and started looking at where are the best opportunities to get an inviting and a safe connection to these destinations and connecting your neighborhoods. So the tools, I like to call them our tools that we have to do that. A lot of the pictures that I shared early on, if we could find a greenway trail everywhere, we would do that. In a built environment, you're not going to always find greenway trails. So we have to have other trail types within our arsenal to plan. And so when we can't find greenway trails, then we're looking at side paths, which would be adjacent to some of your roadways. And we might be looking at buffered bike lanes, bike tracks here. And then we also, with the neighborhoods, we're going to look for calming some of your neighborhood streets, making it more comfortable for you to walk and bike on your own neighborhood streets to get you to some of the destinations that you told us you wanted to go to. So as I talk through these types, I'm going to give you a little bit of what each is. I think the biggest takeaway with greenways is they're separated from roads. They really are green space. You know, capturing that green space, getting out. I love to look at these as almost a linear park experience. If we could take a linear park from Brook Run, connect it to all these destinations, that would be amazing. But unfortunately, we can't. But we do have some opportunities that we can use greenway connections. these really are the scenic, inviting, and kind of safe trail experiences that we're looking for. If we can't find those, we're looking at, okay, what is our other tools that we have? Side path is a tool we have. You do have some side paths already here in Dunwoody. We do recommend that those be a minimum 10 feet wide and a minimum 5 foot buffer from the road. Again, you know, those younger users, I do think it's interesting, you know, having heard that statistic of 25% of your population being under 18. When we start looking at reaching 60% of your population, we really need to capture those younger users and make sure that it's a safe way for them to use the trail system. So these are some examples of what PATH has done throughout Metro Atlanta. You know, we've learned a lot over the years, but as much as we can get vertical elements within that buffer area and just feel separated from that road when we have to be along a road to make the connections that we have to make. That's what we'll be looking for. And then sometimes the roads have too many driveways. So we can't put both bicyclists and pedestrians only on one side. We have to really go with the flow of the road and have a bike facility. If we have a one-way, we could put it together on one side just to separate the pedestrians who are on your sidewalks from the bikers who are on what is called a cycle track. But when we have a lot of curb cuts, that's where we'll separate it, and we might have it on both sides of the road. But that gives us another tool when we're looking at these connections and what we would propose for the trail opportunities for your city. And then the last one, right now, who in here is comfortable on your neighborhood streets walking and biking? Yeah. And all we're going to do is look for, you know, these calm streets are really just, how do we work with you to be able, when these need to be put in place, to be able to mark those streets where if you're driving your car, you know to expect more people in your neighborhood walking on that street or biking on that street. So to the left here is kind of the way that the street would be marked, so that when you're driving, you would see that symbol that there's going to be bikers sharing the street with the car. And we're going to try to work with, you know, pedestrians being on a sidewalk if you already have a sidewalk. If not, we'll kind of work to put them on safely on the street too. But how do we slow down your local traffic and make that comfortable? We're going to look at different types of just calming measures that might be incorporated, but really it is also making sure that one of the tools, and Eric kind of brought this to our attention, really is you always have the speed limit, but who looks at that sign? And you see it with vehicular traffic trying to slow them down, the really flashing one that tells you, okay, you're going over this speed. It's pretty remarkable, and that does slow people down. So those would be some of the measures and signage that we would put in place when we do calm streets, and really making sure that the cars are aware that the street is shared with bicyclists and pedestrians. All right, so just to recap real quick, some of the public engagement and the feedback that we received. So we started in November at the Light Up Dunwoody event. We just kind of had an open tent and met people with the maps and really saw where everybody lived, the destinations that they wanted to go to. We followed that with a public open house the beginning of December. How many of you came to the public open house in December? Great, great. The input that you guys gave us is what kind of is a guiding factor that towards what we'll present tonight. And then we did a survey. The survey was open from December 7th to 30th. Who here tonight responded to the survey? Great. So in looking at this was one of the things out of the survey that I found very interesting, because it does kind of parallel what we've seen, but we haven't quantified at PATH, is that you get people closer to trails, they're going to use it more often. So out of the survey question, how often do you use trails today? You can kind of see the pie chart. I like to look at the green, because that green percentage was people who said almost every day. That was pretty amazing. But then we asked the question, how often would you use trails if you were within a 10-minute walk? Which is really one of our goals here, is to get everyone connected so that you would be within a 10-minute walk. And you can see how that pie piece really became bigger. It really showed us, if we accomplish getting your community closer and more conveniently connected right from your front door to be able to walk to a trail, you're really going to get all of the benefits that we're talking about. People will use these trails that are being built. And so some of the feedback that we got, I just kind of summarized here. We got some really strong support, and we got some concerns. Both of those were things that we took into continuing our field work, looking for opportunities, had really detailed discussion with our working group, and that was really good guidance that we were able to use. And that led us to trail opportunities. So I think everybody, before we got started, if you came a little bit early, was looking at the map. This right now are the trail opportunities that we have identified. We encourage you to let us know if some of the areas that might look as a gap are things that you want to have connectivity through. But you start to look at those destinations, you start to look at how we're connecting. We did differentiate on this map the calm streets. Those are just your neighborhood streets. Some of you told us, I'm already walking on my neighborhood street to be able to get to Brook Run. And we're like, well, how do you do that? What is your best route? That was some of the guidance for even identifying some of the calm streets. But I want to just kind of briefly go through some of the vision that this map would bring with your trail system. We're going to start down in the perimeter area. Right now, the perimeter area has some wonderful opportunities for trail connectivity. The perimeter CID is doing a wonderful job. They're also partnering with cities to really get connectivity around perimeter. On the back side of the mall, this is what it looks like right underneath the MARTA. And it really lends itself to a great opportunity whenever the mall would redevelop or the mall owner would want to do kind of connectivity, is to have a parallel trail along that lower MARTA area. This is a side path because it is along the back driveway, but you can see that buffer and that separation. You can see that connectivity. You can even see what could be some public art and kind of just a plaza area. So wonderful opportunity to kind of come along the mall in the backside and to be separated from the major roads within perimeter. And so as we travel kind of north from there, you come to the Sandy Springs MARTA. And we really wanted to capture trail connectivity in a greenway fashion to be able to get people to the MARTA station, and also be able to utilize Mount Vernon Road to be able to have a side path that would come down, and then look at connectivity into what Sandy Springs is doing. It's hard to plan Dunwoody without looking at your neighbors, because each of your neighbors has their own plan. And that's the way we kind of work together. Where's the trails coming from Brookhaven? Where are they coming from Chamblee, Sandy Springs? How do we get all of this connectivity to happen? And so as we come a little bit along the top end there, we're right north of 285, Twin Bridge Park. Is anybody enjoying Twin Bridge Park right now? Let's get you better connected there. All right. Yeah, so let's not make it a bridge to nowhere. Let's tie the community in. Let's get you safely where, you know, you don't feel that you have to get in your car to get to the mall area. So these are some of the ideas that we had. Bringing in a calm street from the neighborhood, being able to utilize too that North Fork of Nancy Creek as a greenway opportunity. And then just kind of connecting into like the Ravinia Parkway. So that's a little bit of the vision we had there. And so as we go north of Perimeter, we're up at Womack Road. We heard that you really wanted to have connectivity to the schools, to be able to get to the schools, to be able to get down to Perimeter, up to Dunwoody Village. So we were looking for opportunities, and Womack is where we settled. This is what the road looks like today. And again, you know, the Erics here might be comfortable on that bike lane. I see one of our working group members. I know he's comfortable on it too. But, you know, how do we get everybody really comfortable doing this? It could be as simple as raising that bike lane to a sidewalk level, having a little bit of a buffer, and having what we would call a cycle track. And so you see this, it's just a parallel to the sidewalk, a place where the bicyclists would be on either side of the road, adjacent to the sidewalk, and be able to be a little bit more protected with a curb versus right there with the travel lane. You know, this is something that we've done in different places. If you go downtown Decatur, downtown Decatur, we modified Commerce Drive and put in the cycle tracks there. And it really has been very successful for the community. It's such a walkable, bikeable place. That's really what they wanted. A little bit more safety, though, for that younger generation. Okay, so let's go back to kind of central area here around Brook Run, but let's go all the way to DeKalb County Waterworks in Peeler Road. Right now, you know, we see the DeKalb County property kind of as an uninterrupted side where you can almost have a greenway. You don't have any curb cuts, but you are adjacent to Peeler Road. The sidewalk today is not quite wide enough to accommodate bicyclists and pedestrians. So we've looked at how do we modify that a little bit to be able to adjust the roadway, to be able to widen that sidewalk, and to be able to come back with, you know, a tree canopy that is in that buffer to be able to really provide that vertical element, which is so critical on these side paths to us, is to have something that makes you really realize you're protected from the roadway. Okay, as we're working back towards Brook Run, you know, we're coming through the neighborhood. And so this was one of the routes that we heard someone was already taking to get to Brook Run Park. You know, it's a neighborhood street. You already have it at a speed limit of 25 miles per hour. I'm sure people are going a little bit more than that. So, you know, we took the liberty to kind of give a vision of how would we control that? How would we calm that street? These are some of the measures that we could do. You know, you see the marking of the bicyclists that would be sharing that street with the vehicular cars. You see the signage. How do we get the cars to slow down? And so just to point out a few of these elements, just because I think, you know, as we work to put these in place, we'll work directly with each neighborhood to kind of figure out what is the best for your existing neighborhood street that's being proposed. What is the best way to calm the traffic, make it more comfortable for you to walk and bike? So colored pavement marking. Sometimes you can propose the speed cushions, the flexible bollards. We don't want those speed cushions to interrupt the bicyclists and pedestrians, so pulling those in, but marking the edge of that. And then again, the signage. All right, so let's go down to your neighbor. You know, your city limits kind of bridge over 285. And so in doing that, then you touch Chamblee. But how, you know, how do you get to Chamblee, and how do we have really good connectivity that, again, really would be inviting for 60% of your population to want to use this? And so in looking at that, we're looking at Nancy Creek, and where Nancy Creek currently is piped under 285. To the right here of this graphic, all of that green space is park space that City of Chamblee has purchased. They're going to be developing that into just this wonderful linear park. When you start to look at this connection, how it would tie your park at Brook Run to Chamblee's park that'll be there. Actually, Chamblee's looking for a greenway that would go from there all the way down to Chamblee Plaza for Peachtree Industrial. So you really start to see how this connection really makes a strong connection for the communities that are divided, how you're divided from Chamblee because of that barrier of 285. So the concept here is to really have the trail kind of follow the creek, but the creek is in a pipe. And oh my goodness, you know, this graphic is also conveying those elevated lanes that are being proposed, and what you're going to have there in the future that GDOT's going to do. And so to me, that's not beneficial for the local community to be connected. So what we're proposing is to really have 285 open cut to be able to bridge over, daylighting the creek, creating a greenway, and having the trail connect. So today, this is on the inside of the perimeter, so Savoy Drive, and you have no idea that the creek is even there. It's in a pipe, and unfortunately just impacted by putting it in a pipe under the highway. So how would you be able, how could we open up that, daylight the creek, create the trail connection, and actually have the openness that we would want, that would be inviting for the trail connection from one side to the other? And that's what we're proposing. All right, so we're back to kind of, let's go a little bit north here. And, oh, I didn't see the arrow. Okay, so we're going to go over to like the Happy Hollow Road area. Again, this is calm streets. There is some greenway connectivity. We're looking at the park space, connecting to the park space, being able to interact, you know, come through the utility corridor and really provide neighborhood connectivity here. And then we'll come over Tilly Mill. So Tilly Mill was one of your projects that was already programmed, kind of underway. I think it was good timing for us doing the master plan, because we've been able to work with your city staff and really analyze what would be a quality, what would meet the goals of the trail plan, what really brings a quality trail to Tilly Mill, and where is Tilly Mill needed for connectivity to get to destinations. So you have the school campuses, you have kind of the Williamsburg at Dunwoody shopping center. Those were areas that we heard people would want to walk or bike to. And so we really looked at Tilly Mill in between those two areas. This was one photo that we took during our assessment of Tilly Mill. We felt that some shifting and reworking of the road would allow us to have the space to have, you know, a real inviting side path, and to still be able to address some of the concerns we were hearing. So we wouldn't have to have tree removal. We could really just shift some of the roadway Still not have to have a lot of utility conflicts, which is always a driving factor when you're doing side paths. You know, some of your decel lanes are not necessary. You know, that's just almost wasted space that we can use to get your community more walkable, bikeable. So that's a little bit of the vision we had there on Tilly Mill. As we continued a little bit north on Tilly Mill, this was kind of the cross section. Like any roadway, your cross section varies, you know, every 100 feet. And so we're looking here and, you know, again, how do we slide kind of what today is your travel lanes? So you have 2 lanes of travel here. Oh my goodness, they're right in the middle, and then you have wasted area. But how do we use that and still do a quality side path that addressed the concerns that we were hearing? And so this was a little bit of what we saw, is just shift that road over, be able to really have the extra width that was in the road for the side path. But what is critical here again is that green space buffer. We do not want that side path trail right back a curb. You know, that doesn't meet the goals of the trail master plan. We want trees. We want trees to be planted there. We want you to have shade as a trail user. We want you to have that vertical element that really is a protective element when you have traffic beside you. All right, so as we continue kind of to the very last area of the study here around the Nature Center, this was some of the vision that we had with the calm streets coming in to the Dunwoody Nature Center property, doing a side path along Roberts Drive, and then connecting up into Sandy Springs. And this is an area too, if you live in here in this area, give us your feedback. Where are you walking? Where are you biking now? How are you interacting through your neighborhoods? We heard a lot of people were using the neighborhood streets as their kids were coming down to Mount Vernon and being able to get to the schools. So, you know, really figuring out that calm street and that connectivity from the backside of the Nature Center. And this is a little bit, you know, of what we do when we have kind of steep terrain. You know, at the Nature Center, you have some of those conditions. It is like a canopy walk. Being able to do construction as you go, we call it top-down construction. It really allows us to maneuver through a tree canopied area to be able to, you know, preserve the trees, to have limited land disturbance in our construction, but to provide just a wonderful experience for the trail user. I think some of these types of trails that we have built have been my favorite. And a lot of people, when I mention this, can really relate to going to Atlanta Botanical Gardens, going on their tree canopy walk. It's a little bit different, but it's still that same experience. You're up in the trees as a trail user, you're kind of contained on this structure. All right, so that brings us to analyzing what opportunities we found. So when we're looking at a 10-minute walk, we're looking at an area that would be about 1/3 of a mile. And so that's what all the studies show is kind of our target, that if we can get you within a 10-minute walk to a trail, you're going to be more likely to use it on, you know, a more frequent basis. So we took kind of a network analysis. Cooper, I should give him credit, even though he's not here tonight because he's sick. But he took the GIS and he did a network analysis, which meant every road that the proposed trails that we have on the plan were, as they cross roads, he kind of networked out that 1/3 of a mile, which showed if you lived in these blue areas, you would be within that distance. Once the trail system is built, you would be within that goal distance of a 10-minute walk. And so the coverage, when we back off the coverage of your city boundary, right now the opportunities that we have identified are going to achieve about 71% coverage, which is really, really good for, you know, an urban community like yours. And so you start to look at too some of these void areas. And that's where I'd love to have your engagement. You know, if there's something we're missing, how do we fill some of those void areas? Again, with the goal, if you live there, we do want to get you in the future when this is built to have ease of getting there and connecting into the trail system. And then as we look at, okay, if you're biking, you actually, a 10-minute bike could get you a mile. Okay, so you start to see from the other user's perspective as a bicyclist, we're even getting greater coverage because a 10-minute bike gets you further. And especially today with everybody really starting to look at e-bikes and getting to and from work from your home, you know, how do we get that coverage? So we're at 94% when you look at a bicyclist distance, a 10-minute distance. All right. So I hope that excited you for, you know, just the opportunities that we have found. Our next steps, you know, tonight we're going to open this up and get some additional feedback. You've got comment cards. We'll continue collecting feedback. This presentation, I know people are taking pictures. It's going to be on the city's website. So if you had someone here that wasn't able to attend, and I know we're doing Facebook Live tonight, so hopefully lots of people are out there, you know, at Facebook land watching too. Just know you can go to the city's website, even if you don't have access to the survey. You can go there, you can fill out what everyone here in person has on the piece of paper. Give us your feedback. These are the 3 questions that are on that piece of paper. You know, we really want your overall opinion of what we have presented tonight, these trail opportunities, and what your thoughts are. What are we missing? You know, what's got you really excited? What might be a concern that you might have? And where do you see additional connections? So as you're looking, you know, again, back at some of those gaps where we might not have certain areas within a 10-minute, you know, walk or bike, you know, where would you see additional connections that you might propose? And then this is the one I'm really excited to get your input of what's being proposed. Where should the city start? You know, what would be the great model project that will come from this master planning exercise? So we'll be working back with our working group on just that question. You know, where do we start from here? What is the model project? What is that first piece? Because we don't want to do a planning effort, really have you engaged and not have something built for your enjoyment. So we'll be working directly with the city on identifying that model project and then putting together what is the next 7 to 10 years look like? What are the pieces that would come next after the model project? If we don't start with the right pieces, you don't understand really what we have experienced over the past 32 years at PATH, you know, so it's new to you as a community. We want to get you underway in the right direction. And so as we move forward, we're going to compile this into a draft document, a draft master plan. We'll use the next few months to do that, and we'll be again meeting with our working group. That will be presented to City Council at a work session in April. And the hope is that in May, that becomes an adopted document. The draft we'll get feedback from City Council, we'll finalize everything. And so we're working towards a May date for adoption. And with that said, you know, we'll be wanting to really get a model project moving forward. So out of this planning exercise, if a model project starts going into design this summer, you could realistically have something under construction this time next year. And so those will be things we'll be discussing as we continue to work with our working group and get this draft master plan put together. So with that, I want to thank everybody for your patience. I stayed under an hour. It was okay. And yeah, and right now we don't have a microphone to pass around. So I'm going to try to do my best to, kind of point, and then I'll say the question back so everybody can hear it. But with that, I'd love to open it up for just any questions that you have so that we can provide answers. Okay. Right.
Assumption of a third of a mile in 10 minutes or 1 mile on a bike in 10 minutes. That seems kind of slow.
So the question was, how do you get to the assumption of 1/3 mile in 10 minutes and 1 mile on a bike in 10 minutes? It seems kind of slow. It is conservative. Yes, yes. As we're looking at just kind of a conservative approach, and in the case of coverage, it's probably better to be conservative than over ambitious.
I guess that's my point, is if you assume higher rate of speed, you probably need less coverage, right? To get to the path faster.
Right, you'd probably fill in those gaps, which the goal is to have full coverage. So you are correct. The goal is to have your city boundary fully covered where everyone is within that distance. So if we were to increase those distances, you would not have as much white, right? I think the gentleman in the back, I saw your hand. Yes.
Yeah, just a brief thing to say that follows into my question. We bought our house in 2006 on Village Springs Run, and our backyard is boundaried by the North Fork of Nancy Creek. When we bought the house, we had, I thought, a reasonable assumption that we would maintain privacy and serenity there. And it looks like part of this proposal would destroy that. So I'm wondering, is there a way that you can do this without coming right down our creek?
Right. So in that area, so
Can you repeat the questions?
I'll try.
Or just a short
Yeah.
so that people out there can hear the question.
So his neighborhood is on the creek corridor that's proposed for a greenway. And in looking at that and looking at the property ownership, we're very sensitive to single family residential property. So, what I would do is, work directly with you to be able to make sure if we needed any single family residential property that you would agree to working with us and working through concerns. Right now, though, we're really not proposing that. So we're proposing to do the creek corridor, very minimal, with what green space is there. There's some neighborhood kind of open space. And so, but we would work directly with you.
Would you mind saying what it is? You said that you're not planning on doing that. I didn't know.
Right, Eric, do you want to field this question in that area with the field work that you did? Come up here, so just because Facebook people need to hear it.
Could you also add what the setback is from the creek? What's the required?
Yeah, okay.
setback?
Yeah, so when we're working in creek corridors, there's typically two setbacks. The first one is the state 25-foot setback from rested vegetation of the creek, which is basically where your plant vegetation begins. And so we try to stay completely out of that. Some of the development that has encroached so severely on the creeks, we end up having to get a variance from the state EPD. And so we've worked through techniques in constructing trails and revegetation that has been very successful on working with EPD to get those variances. In this case, that's not where we want to be. The additional setback would be something we would work with the city within their buffer. And, typically those buffers are because you're bringing in not a linear project where we can accommodate stormwater. We can design the trail to pitch away from the creek. We can infiltrate the water underneath the trail. Those are some of the measures that we do even in that additional buffer when we have to be there. But back to the area coming up along the creek from Brook Run with a single family residential.
Yeah.
Nancy Creek, Brook Run.
North Springs.
Yes, North Springs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. That's a very good question. So when we look at the map, and you can actually do this on a DeKalb County parcel viewer map so people can see what we're looking at. It's a really useful resource. So you can see what are the opportunities that are available. When we look along that stream, what we see is that there are large chunks that are not single family home owner parcels. And so along that is where we would look to put a trail so that we are not touching single family home properties. There are a couple of locations. There are a couple of locations where there are some places. So we've identified 4 or 5 single family home parcels that would have a small touch along the creek side. Right, but that's, so, that is something that as a reminder, this is a master plan. We're looking at a high level. We're looking at what opportunities we do have within Dunwoody to. Oh, okay, sorry about that. So we are looking for the green space opportunities that exist within Dunwoody. We don't have a lot. There's some creekways that we are interested in that we think could provide fantastic linear park-like connection for you to access Brook Run Park, for you to access Georgia State University, which might not be you, but it could be your family members.
So,
Like 10 feet.
So-
Every time it rains, rising up, flying down the
Yeah.
run, because it goes down. And I'm concerned because I already see erosion happening. It's like, here's the creek and now there's a big step up, which is starting to encroach like onto our backyard. And so I am very concerned about this.
If you mark it on the map, where is the entrance on the trail, and this is gonna give us some idea, right?
okay,
To get this trail to get there.
that's really good feedback. And what I would encourage, so they're talking about marking on the map, the access entrances where people would get onto the trails. I would encourage to, if that is your concern, write that down. Like, where do you live? Give us your property address. We can reach out to you and work directly. We really want to communicate clearly what would be proposed. And if the opportunity is not there today, we understand. So, and I hope that everybody understands the intent of a Greenway connection. What that does bring your property value, just, but we would need to really have the dialogue with you. So, yes, ma'am.
On your slideshow, you showed that the trail would be on the reservoir side of Peeler Road. What about from Winters Chapel Road to the park, Windward Hollow Park, which is Lakeside, what side of the road would you be on there?
Same side,
On the what?
It-
on the reservoir side.
It will be.
Mhm.
It would be, and we
It
would.
goes down
have
to
a way
Winter's
of
Chapel.
connecting over. So the question was, along Pillar Road, we're showing the trail on the reservoir side. How do you connect, I think, Winter's Chapel, and the park? So at the Winter's Chapel intersection, we would come onto that south side. As we get to the park, there would be a safe way to cross to get to the park. Again, the safety of having uninterrupted, where you're not crossing driveways, was the reason we chose that south side of Pillar Road, to really capture the reservoir as kind of green space enjoyment, and to be able to modify the road down, but be able to accommodate that side path. Thank you for the question. I know somebody else filled questions because I'm so bad. Yeah.
If 5 people line up right
Okay.
there, like, or just line up right.
You can tell the mayor is used to running. Great, great. Okay,
Down, because there's a lot of people.
right, right.
And can I say one other thing?
Yes, go right
So I
ahead.
want to talk really quickly, I want to take 1 second to say that when the city does any kind of public works project, we work hard to improve drainage, right, Michael Smith? And we do it. So while, and we have successfully made big differences in lots of communities where we've done just paving. So I just want you all to know that any public works project we do, we have to make it better. We try not to, we will not leave it worse. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ralph Angiel. I'm president of the Stevens Walk.
Okay,
Okay.
his name is Ralph
Well, that's-
ABO, and he is president of Stevens Wall. Yeah, I can repeat it. Yeah,
I'm pretty good. My name's Ralph Angiel. I'm president of Stevens Walk.
That works.
One of the main things that I'm concerned about, and from what I've seen on your, on your map,
right.
is that number one, we're gonna lose our de-acceleration lanes going into our subdivision, which is a senior subdivision. I'm one of the youngest ones there. Okay. So there can be a major problem. Across the street, you have the Jewish Community Center, which has a tremendous amount of traffic in afternoons and in camps and things of that nature. You're gonna eliminate their particular acceleration lanes. And also coming, I guess, north, there's no turn lane there. So that the traffic backs up all the way. And also the other major problem you have is that Dunwoody is planning to, where the streets split further up, they're gonna combine those streets. And we're gonna have a lot more traffic. And we're really concerned about that area.
Okay. So his concerns are the loss of decel lanes, the Jewish centers, turning movements, which was one of the reasons that we decided the east side was better. So we're going to work to keep as much as we can, but the goal is to have your street calmed, so that when you do have to turn, that it's not, you don't have to have a decel lane.
But that's a major thoroughfare. You can't put. Speed bumps.
Right, but we're also addressing some of the concerns. You don't want us to get into your frontages of your neighborhoods. You don't want to lose your trees. But we're trying to make the community a more walkable, bikeable community. So this is not about accommodating, traffic flow, because you have congestion today. You're never going to get congestion to go away. But how do we make it better for your community? So we will look at each of those elements as the design starts to move forward. We've already shared some ideas with Michael and his team. Because we want it to be, accommodating for traffic with the lanes that are there. We want to be able to have it where you can also have the connectivity to get to the places that you would want to walk and bike.
And we'd certainly like to have some input, which I don't think we've really had with you guys. I
Right.
think that would be really important, to be quite frank.
Okay, thank you.
Surprise, surprise, I'm,
Rick,
Tom
we'll leave
Simon,
it here.
I'm with Stevens Walk.
Let's use
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, here we go.
Tom Simons with Stevens Walk.
Go right here, and that way everybody can hear you.
Okay. I'll reiterate what Ralph said, but originally in 2021, the path was supposed to be on the west side of Tilly Mill. Someone mentioned something in a council meeting, and it changed from the west side to the east side. It was a council member, okay? Michael Smith, the Public Works, said the likely side is the west side. You have almost a half a mile of deceleration and acceleration lanes on the west side of the JCC side. It was the perfect place, the obvious place, okay, as Michael said. And then all of a sudden, after a comment was made, it was changed over to the east side. Now, you talk about access, etc. As a result of that, I put together a drawing with a number of our neighbors, and we said, go from Mount Vernon to Mount Vernon Place, down Tilly Mill on the west side. It's perfect. It costs about $3 million less. You haven't addressed any cost involved in this. Apparently, it's going to cost considerably more to put the path on the east side, our side, as opposed to the west side. Okay, and with that having been said, why would you spend that much more money, okay, to put it on the east side than the original side that was proposed by the Public Works of the city of Dunwoody? Okay, and last thing, can you address the cost involved also with that?
Okay, so we weren't here when the original proposal was whichever side was selected. We did tell you guys when we started that we would look at it and give you our expert opinion. So our expert opinion is the goals of connectivity of the trail system that we presented tonight. To get residents to the destinations that you told us you wanted to walk and bike to make it inviting and safe. So our recommendation is the east side. And, that's just with our experience where it would make the best connectivity for your neighborhoods to be able to use walk and bike and to save the trees and to not encroach upon your properties. Basically it's a modification of the road. The utilities are on the other side, just our assessment. Now, as we make these recommendations, we will price, but we're not comparatively pricing an under quality side that we are not recommending with what we would propose as a quality connection on the east side. To us, the goals of the master plan are really what the focus is to get you and future generations of people that would live in Dunwoody to love living here because it's a more walkable, bikeable community. But I appreciate your question.
You're taking
And
into
then-
account the cost, as well as 300 residents on the east side of Tilly Mill voiced their opinion against it. Apparently, that was not taken.
So
into
if
consideration.
we built it on that side, would you use it?
What?
The trail?
On what side?
I don't know.
Oh, well.
Are you going to use it on
Tell me
either
which side.
side?
Put it on the original side.
Okay. So if you walk over there, and then we want to keep the questions brief so that we get to everybody.
My name's Joe Tyson.
Okay, just.
I think I can talk loud enough.
But everybody,
People on.
yeah, people on the overflow.
My name's Joe Tyson. I live in Stevens Walk,
Right.
and I want to get clarification from you. And looking at this trail, You said you're not gonna take any trees down on Tilly Mill, is that right? That, I heard you say you're not gonna take.
You
trees down
guys
on Tilly
told
Mill.
us that there was gonna be 300 or something trees, and so we are proposing not to do that number. Obviously, when we start design, we also are looking with the arborist at the condition of the trees, and we are bringing back additional trees. So again, a side path to us has to have a real quality buffer. That gives you better opportunity to have beautification of Tilly Mill, to really bring value, better value to your neighborhoods and to your properties. So that's what we would propose. Right now, until we start design, I can't really, maybe my team could tell me, is there any trees, Nico, that we're taking out? Oh, Pete, come on up here. You walked it and assessed it.
I heard you say there weren't gonna be trees taken down on Tilly Mill. That's what I heard you say.
I said, your concern was taking down trees and modifying the road. We're not doing what you were concerned as that major impact.
You're not gonna put the 12-foot pathway on Tilly. Mill.
We're proposing a 10-foot path and a minimum 5-foot buffer.
Just
Valid fee.
The tree
15 feet, now you're gonna have to take a lot of trees.
No, so here's, so the key piece is the
Stop in
shifting.
here.
So the
At
key
15
piece.
feet, you're gonna take trees down.
And I hear you, but so with the part of what we did when we looked at Tilly Mill was to say, what is the envelope of the right of way? What is the envelope of the existing roadway? And how can we better, more efficiently use that to satisfy car travel and to allow us to have a multi-use path on the side without impacting the trees in front of Stevens Walk and other places along the side of the road. So what we're proposing is to shift those travel lanes to the west. And then we've got a little more room on the east that we can work with. So when we talk about that 15-foot slice, it's coming out of the existing roadway. It isn't coming out of the Stevens Walk property.
No, I'm sorry, that is not true. There's sidewalks on both sides of Tilly Mill at a 1-foot verge. You know, when you showed your pictures of shifting the road and adding the side path, you don't show the erosion into the neighborhood yard. The same bush was the same distance. It's like fantasy land.
No, it's not. I think that.
Can I finish my question here? too?
I've lived there
Okay,
for
so your
40 years.
question was about the trees. So
Okay.
Pete's gonna talk, that was your question was, I heard that you're not taking any trees out.
Why wouldn't you do this? Instead of going right here, why wouldn't you start here and go down here and put it on the west side? Without, then that's minimum. Then you're connecting here. This, could you define a proposed calm street versus the proposed trail? What's the difference? 10 feet versus 12 feet?
No,
What
Calm
is-
Street is within the street.
Huh?
Calm Street is within the street.
Within the street itself,
Correct.
okay? And what is the definition of a program trail?
Program trail means that funding has been identified and that some level of planning has begun.
So he was asking, what is a program trail? That's where the funding has been identified. Those were projects that were already identified prior to us starting the trail master plan. So part of our doing the trail master plan is to look at what the city is already underway with. How does that complement getting you to destinations like Williamsburg shopping center? These are all the things that we took into consideration with the recommendation of what we're proposing along Tilly Mill.
So taking that in consideration, why wouldn't you start here? Instead of here, right here, go down here and keep it on the west side?
Because
Why-
Williamsburg is above there.
What's that?
Williamsburg is north of there.
Okay, so as a reminder,
Continue it.
Yeah.
what we're looking for in feedback tonight is not just what you don't want, it's what you want. So if we hear, no, wait, please, let me explain. So Tilly Mill isn't your priority. Because apparently we know that a lot of y'all have concerns about Tilly Mill, and that's also part. You brought an alternative, you're gonna give it to them. That's part of the process tonight. We appreciate you bringing that in. But what is your, if you're not interested in paths, just say it. That's fine.
Well, I want to get clarification because when she made her initial presentation, she said were not any trees to be taken down Tilly Mill, and I wanted you to
There's no
clarify
way.
that.
They're
That's what she said.
15 feet in from the curb and not take trees. Number one, on your map,
We can't hear you.
okay, on your map, you're not showing anything on Tilly Mill now. But suddenly you're talking about.
No,
If you come down the east side and step in 15 feet, you are taking away all the frontages on all the little subdivisions. No way to avoid that.
So what,
And shifting the road, the only extra space on that road are the little bicycle paths. They have sidewalks on both sides. Where are you shifting this road to? You're adding an additional 5 feet. Where is it coming out of the air?
okay,
You know,
let's don't be
there's-
disrespectful in our conversation tonight.
Okay.
So
Is-
to have a travel lane, we're proposing 11-foot travel lanes. They're adequate right now. You have an extra wide lane that also is leading to higher speeds of travel. So once you take from curb to curb and you minimize down those travel lanes, that extra space is primarily what is being proposed to accommodate a quality side path.
Do this little thing.
And so in doing that, you're able to capture your roads right away for better walking and biking. You're taking back on a human scale, your community and getting connectivity. And you're doing it in a inviting way. You're improving the look of that road. You're adding additional landscape into that. You become the destination where people will want to live. People will want you will be connected and you can get out of your neighborhood without getting in your car to get to places in your community. So that's the goal of what we're doing here. And I understand that there was a lot of commotion coming into this master plan, just in regards to whether it was not clear communication, maybe not a good understanding. But as we continue with the master plan, we'll look at, where do we start? Where do we go? We want you to get to the places that you want to get to. And so I think the mayor's wanting to say something.
So it is clear and not new news that we have there are concerns about a path on Tilly Mill. We hear you. If I took a vote today in this room, Tilly Mill would not be the first choice.
Yeah.
But we need to know what is the thing where you think we should improve or build or develop trails. Like because truthfully, we're going to do a model trail thing. We're going to do one. We don't have the money to do all this today, tomorrow, or next week. And so you have a lot of concerns about Tilly Mill. We hear you. We totally hear you. And we will continue to work with y'all on these concerns. But in the meantime, for this meeting to have value to the community, it would be really helpful if you would give input on where you think there is an opportunity for us to make a difference in our trail and path system for people who are interested in using them. They'll still answer questions, but if you could just provide us with that little nugget of information, it would be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Clark Glenn, and I live at the end of North Springs Drive, my wife and I. And I think this could have been a very good idea about 35 or 40 years ago. Because property all around the Dunwoody area, if you look around, there really isn't any more property available. But at some point, 35 or 40 years ago, there was a lot of property available. Now, our home is built on a lot that it was the only home in that development that would fit on the lot. And after the home was built, then about 40% of the deck had to be cut off because it was too close to the creek. Now, our property jumps over the creek, and there is about another 10 to 15, maybe 20 feet in some areas on the other side of the creek. But that property over there is not usable by us. And there are others who back up to the creek. When I say back up, I mean they are on the creek. Now, when I say that about 40% of the deck had to be cut off, that's because we were too close to the creek. So if they put a pathway behind our home, and that's the only home that would fit on there, what do? Tear down the home? I mean, it doesn't even make sense to lose the privacy that you wanted, that you bought, that you paid for.
Did you say you were on North Springs Drive?
Yes, at the very end.
Yeah. This is a road plan, not a greenway.
Who's on that?
Okay. Right here where the dotted lines are. This is where we are at the end of North Springs Drive. And there is no more room down there. You have to take out the rest of the deck or move the house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. The way I see it, we're going from the right fork, that going down Tilly Mill to Womack, am I correct? Then we're going through the college. If I may ask, you're leaving something out? You insinuate you want people to get to the park safely. How do you get them across Vermac at Tilly Mill safely to the other side of the street?
So Vermac,
You built
can
this
you answer that?
path on the wrong side of the road in the first place. You have to go across a major intersection to get to the college entrance.
Yeah.
Am I
So,
correct?
yes, you are correct. Those are busy streets.
So what are your intentions? To build a bridge or something?
No, there will be an at-grade
Or are
crossing.
you gonna stand a cop there all the time?
No, there will be an at-grade crossing at the intersection, meaning there's no extra structure. There is a well-lit area with a pedestrian crossing.
You're setting people up to be hurt. Crossing that major intersection.
Well, people cross the intersection today. And so what we would
You're
do
building
is set up.
traffic to come down this path, bicycles and pedestrians. To
Correct.
cross over to go into the park because you built it on the wrong side of the road in the first place.
Well, so again, this is a master plan. We have not decided what
You
side.
have
of the road.
decided to put this on the east side. It was originally planned for the west side. That would have been more logical if you intend to go through the college.
So when you look at all the residents on the east side that would come down Tilly Mill, one point of crossing Tilly Mill is what we're proposing. That would be a controlled crossing and we would design it in a safe way to get across.
That's the same
That would
way
have
it's supposed to
a crosswalk and everything.
We have one on North Shalford today.
Okay, so there's one on North Shalford today, if you want to look at that example.
At Dunwoody, which road, we have one today, it's signalized on North Shalford.
Right. And I would love not to even be adjacent to any roads or have to cross any roads. Unfortunately, those are just not the opportunities we found in your community. Again, to get you to the destinations that you would want to get to. So today, if you're living in that area of Tilly Mill, you're probably driving to Brook Run if you're enjoying it. And that's something that long-term, we really want it to be more bikeable and walkable, just to really bring the benefits that would have for you as a community. Okay, next.
Hello, my name's Jim Littlefield. I live in Villageville. I don't live in Students Walk. And yeah, I will say, based on the mayor's comments, based on the comments I've heard, and familiarity with Tilly Mill, I would agree with the west side approach, but I understand your other factors that played into the decision there.
Anytime, we can't hear you.
My question was if I don't, there's nothing on this corridor of Chamblee Dunwoody Road, and I was curious why that was left out, because it is such a major road that connects Dunwoody. And then the other question is comparing the costs of sidewalks versus a path. If you could share what the incremental cost is to having a path versus the traditional sidewalk.
Okay. They like that question. Okay, so we're trying to stay away from your roadways. You know, you probably have sidewalks right now to accommodate, you know, quality trail connections and to get you to destinations. We felt that Chamblee Dunwoody was not necessary to be in the plan. You can give us feedback if you feel different. We're trying to tie your neighborhoods and your communities again to the places you told us. In regards to sidewalk, obviously the construction cost is less because you don't have as much real estate that you need with a sidewalk, and you don't have as much concrete. So to take a sidewalk today that you might have at 5 to 6 feet wide and to propose a 10 to 12, I would say just your base cost, you know, if you're just laying that on ground would be your material difference. You're still forming up the same. Your labor is probably still the same. As you're doing side paths along roadways though, there's a lot more that goes into cost. You know, in shifting lanes, restriping roads, being able to put new curb in, to be able to accommodate stormwater, to be able to come with landscape. So, you know, but I would say your question as to what is kind of obvious is that you would have the material cost increased 2 times, your labor would be the same.
My name is Wendy Taylor, and about 25 years ago, I bought my home in eastern part of Dunwoody. And I lived in Four Oaks, which is across Peeler from the reservoir. I walk about 5 hours a week for the past 25 years in Dunwoody. So I can say I've been on every road on the east side of Dunwoody, and most hundreds of times. I really kind of think, okay, the statistic, I'm also an logistics engineer. So I hear the statistic about 1/3 of a mile. And I think, well, it doesn't really matter if you're walking on side roads that are pleasant anyway, that you know, that's part of what you want to walk on anyway. So even if it is a mile to the path, it's on a pleasant, walkable area. So really the statistic doesn't need to be, you know, used. It actually needs to look at, you know, how far do you have, or do you have to go on any roads that aren't really walkable in order to get to the path?
Right.
To me, that's the all important thing. If you, I mean, that makes so much more sense than a statistic of 1/3 of a mile. So
yeah, and you know, to be able to achieve that on roads that you might say today are not walkable, it is a layered process. So, you know, we look at your trail system as kind of your spine of bike ped. And then you have sidewalks, you might have some bike lanes, you know, and that kind of overlays. So you are correct.
right. Well, actually, the people that live in Dunwoody get to know the roads around there, so they are able to use these roads for walking or biking safely. And in fact, a few of the roads that you are designating as proposed calm roads, they're calm. I don't even think we need some of the extra things in there in order to make them calm. I mean, it can be, the idea, I guess, is to make it part of the designated whole path system, but you got lots of choices there, a whole lot of choices there, and you don't even need to necessarily, do anything to a lot of the choices. And the people that live there know. It's the people that are coming from outside of Dunwoody that wouldn't know. And so we're paying for things that we don't really need, but it would just serve those that are unfamiliar with the area. And I don't know if I'm really ready to.
Well said.
Absolutely right. We moved to Dunwoody years ago because of this contract.
So if you want to come up and ask a question, you can get in the line real quick. So in
One more thing.
okay, in your question,
My first thing too is I live, I used to walk over Run well before there were even paths there. But I walk, I have to cross Tilly Mill, and I find all sorts of ways to avoid Tilly Mill today, even though there's great sidewalks along Tilly Mill. I don't choose to use paths on roads that are busy. I mean, that is not why I get outside. I get outside because of all the old growth trees. So I don't even believe in taking down trees, even if you're gonna plant replacement trees. To me, I much rather preserve the look and feel that I moved here for.
Exactly.
so now, a little bit in response to that, as we're putting together an implementation strategy, again, just like the mayor said, we want your feedback. Where do we start? Your calm streets are kind of those connections that are filling the gaps. It's getting you through your neighborhoods. At that point, we could meet and you say, okay, we're comfortable here. You don't need to do anything. And that's what would happen. But before we get to that, we really need your feedback tonight. Where should we start? What should be recommended as the opportunities that we've presented? What would be your just, wow, if you could do this out of this master plan, this is what we would really get excited about. So I know there's a lot of people here tonight that have concerns, but I do want to keep it in a positive tone so that we can get really good feedback tonight to be able to move forward.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Bob Pyle. I'm a almost 30-year Dunwoody resident. I love Dunwoody, and I love the fact that it is sort of a walkable community. But I do want to thank the Path Foundation and the city for embarking on this project, because this has the potential to make us really a walkable community. And I'm very excited about it as someone who walks and bikes a lot and has to deal with the, the hazardous situation that we have in many places for walking and biking. But I do also want to respond to your request and the mayor's request, which is where do we start? Because you're not going to do all this at once. It's a long-term project. And a lot of these concerns that I've heard tonight, these will be addressed as best they can over time. But people will be affected. That's just the fact of life with an ambitious undertaking like this, but it's well worth doing. I'll throw in a vote as a west side of Dunwoody resident for something connecting Nature Center, Village, and if possible, Brook Run. Those are the destinations that we on the western side of the city are always trying to walk to, bike to, just go to generally. And it seems to me that in particular, the Dunwoody Village connection would dovetail very nicely with what the city is trying to do to reinvigorate Dunwoody Village, and a robust set of trails connecting Dunwoody Village to other parts of the community would I think accelerate and really enhance that. So that's my 2 cents. Would welcome you. You've lived this, so your expert opinion on where we should start now that I've loaded that question. But anyway, thank you for your.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I think Dunwoody Village, any ideas that you guys see currently with how you walk there, circulation, we do have some additional work to do, I feel, around Dunwoody Village. Is there opportunities to have trail connectivity that is more back of house versus right along Chamblee Dunwoody Road? Right now, that's where we've kind of have fallen in our study, but any feedback there would be helpful, because I want to see at Dunwoody Village more than just, kind of this crossing that we have today.
Hi, my name is Frank Lockridge. I'm representing the Lakeview Oaks subdivision, which is a subdivision that borders West Nancy Creek, the tributary of Nancy Creek. Many of my neighbors back right up to that creek, and there is a great deal of concern regarding a pathway down along that creek, both from the standpoint of the environment, what it would do to the environment, and the potential flooding of our neighborhood. We're at a very, very critical point in the hydrology of our neighborhood, and any type of construction anywhere upstream from us is very dangerous to us. As far as positive, something to do, try Perimeter Mall, try Dunwoody Village. I'm for doing pass around both of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take this last question and we'll dismiss for tonight. Anybody who wants to kind of meet our team around the boards before you leave, please feel free to.
Hi, I'm Barbara Pryor, and I have a question for you about how you're going to protect the property like the Dunwoody Nature Center. I'm an assigned forest steward there and have been working with them for a long time. And we have an old growth forest there that cannot be replaced. We cannot lose those trees. They can never be replaced. We have lots of wild specimen plants and little wildflowers that are one of a kind to our area. Sometimes we're amazed that we found them there, and we do everything we can to protect them. So, and then of course the creek going through there too, we have to protect that. So I'd like to know what you're going to do about that old growth forest. I can't tell from the map exactly where you're going to come through there.
Good questions. So what we would do is we would work directly with the Nature Center. Some of the trails that are there, that was kind of that very sensitive approach of construction that we had presented. It does allow us to be able to kind of intertwine with the old growth forests, the specimen trees, to be able to preserve those, to almost have those within your reach, because it's a top down kind of, you drive just piles, and any tree that would be determined as needing to, be removed, we also would work to plant back. The top-down construction would leave all the roots in place. We don't want soil disturbance. Usually, if there is a tree that's removed, it would be cut right above grade so that we could, again, just build as we go and kind of go through there with canopy walk. But I do hear your concerns, and when we get to that point in design, we would work hand in hand with you all at the Nature Center.
Mhm.
All right, well, with that, I appreciate everybody coming. Please leave your comment cards on the table in the back. Know the presentation will be posted on the city's website. If somebody wasn't able to come tonight, really encourage them to go there and kind of look at everything that we presented. Thank you so much.
Hold on. I used to serve on the planning commission here since the city was formed, and before that happened, but I got to know Tom Blatt, who you may recall was the public works director.
Right.
So here at Excel Diesel, and understand we have a lot of them and they're really bad. But the County under Tom, before we became a